obey me. There's something about Zoom today. I don't know what it's doing. Anyway, my name is Dr. Pauline Crawford, and you can see this interesting word, entrepreneurology. And it's been something in my life now for some time. And I want to explain and give you an opportunity to join the movement to shine a great light on the world. So here we are. Can you see my screen? Can you see all these wonderful people? Can you see everybody?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
excellent. And these are all people who have already either got their PhD with us or are in process. So Tigo, who some of you know, Teresa Goss, she's in her process of doing it. And also my friend Shankar at the bottom there, who's also in process in India, and Erica knows him. And Floribert Molabunda, who's in just above them here, he's just about to finish. But the idea about this PhD is quite unique and unusual. So I'd like to share a story with you about how it's happened. So I say it's education for visionary change makers, and I believe all of you are change makers. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. And we want to go beyond tradition. We want to change some of the rules. We want to make sure that it's about energy and shining our light. And so what entrepreneurology is about is the essence of who you are, the spark inside you that makes you do what you do and has led you to your current life success. Now, it's probably been up and down. There's been times when you thought, oh my goodness me, am I doing the right thing? I certainly have. But it's about understanding your knowledge base. What do you know? What do you experience with that knowledge? Now, that knowledge might have been something you learned at school, but it might have been something that you went on a course for, went away for a weekend retreat, whatever it was. But your experience of learning that knowledge is what this is about. And using our imagination is absolutely vital. And we're in a world change point where we need people to be using their imagination because we've gone into a place where everything is up for grabs. I hope you believe that too. And it is about belief. What I'm going to share with you is my absolute belief that we can together transform our world. And we can do it each uniquely and together as a collective with this PhD, because this is a professional higher doctorate, a credential for life and for giving back. So I'm going to give you a story and a proposition and a differentiator. I'm going to question, are you shining your light for a better future for all, or is it just for yourself? I believe that everybody on this call is wanting to do it for the world. And that actually when we get our act together with sharing our professional higher doctorate, we will change the economic development of the world and also the cultural, socio-economic culture of the world. And that's a big passion for me in shining a light for authentic harmony. So I'll come back to this in a bit. I want to share with you my story. How did I meet entrepreneurology? Well, for sure, it's because I met this man. And in fact, Dr. Amy met him yesterday. And this was a photograph that you took, Dr. Amy. And I wanted to share it here because if I hadn't met Jim, I wouldn't have understood entrepreneurology. I wouldn't have ended up marrying him and also going to Malaysia for 4 years and presenting entrepreneurology to Malaysian female entrepreneurs, and work with the Ministry of Women there. And in that time, I went to Delhi and I ended up on this stage for the Women Economic Forum. And my passion grew about shining a light on authentic harmony. And I hadn't quite got my head around what entrepreneurology was, but Jim had said my life of experience had given me that credential. Now, here I am in London in 2016. And of course, we all know what happens in 2021. We all went online. So in COVID times, I went online and I really got to grips with a global platform, a global audience. There are people here from Australia, from Europe, from Africa, from UK, and I was in Las Vegas when COVID went down. So I've been continuing doing that, listening to people online and talking to people about what makes you buzz, what makes you tick, what makes you successful. It wasn't necessarily what you learned at school or on those programs, it's what's inside you. And it's about your subject matter expertise. So mine is about gender dynamics, intelligence, about men and women and how we create a world of authentic harmony. But if I hadn't have met Jim, I wouldn't have understood about entrepreneurology. So he and I met in Budapest in 2011, actually at a conference that neither of us wanted to go to. And it was about small and medium enterprise. It was about entrepreneurs across the world. And there we were. We kind of got to like each other in the meeting and we started writing to each other. And in that writing, he taught me about entrepreneurology. And what I realized was that it was about a mind shift for life learning, for life learning. And my passion now is how can we share our wisdom across generations? Because if we're very successful, then we can help and guide the younger generation. So I want you just to think about this flow. The kids at school, how are they being taught? Where's their spark? We have one of our PhDs in Kuala Lumpur who runs a school for these kids, and they are entrepreneurialists mindset at age 4 to 16. And then we have those kids coming out of school. How do we help them? They are the largest demographic in the whole world. They are huge in numbers. And this is where you come into it, because if we are all PhDs in this mindset, my plan is to guide the younger in a program called Future Starts. So hold that thought, and I will come back to this slide. But just remember, we're talking not only about yourself, but how do we give back? How do we shine across the world? So let me ask you a question. Are you an entrepreneur? Are you an entrepreneurologist? Or are you just a business person? And I say that with love for business people, but I think entrepreneurs and entrepreneurologists go a step further. So they have a vision. They have a vision that's way beyond where they are at the moment, and that keeps them going. They have a belief. They have a belief in themselves. They have a belief in everybody around them. They have a belief even in the crazy world that everybody's being so hateful in. And we have a purpose. We have a purpose that drives us. So whether we're in healthcare or farming or construction or mind development, we have a purpose. And the idea is sparking. So my idea about gender dynamics intelligence came out of me recognizing there were different types of men and women and creating a map, because I loved creating maps. That's a simple idea, but it can change the world. And my mission is for everybody, every boy and girl, every man and woman in the world to be able to understand this narrative. My passion is undeniable, I hope, and I know yours is too. And so we add value. Now, that value only comes from you, the me in you. And yes, you've got all the knowledge and you've got support and help and funding and everything, but you're the driver. You're the entrepreneur, entrepreneurologist. And it's all about people. I think everybody here knows that we don't make the success point without other people, either on our team or as associates or in our families or our communities. And that's what creates our world. So this is what I call, value creation. I'm going the wrong way. There you go. And value creation is the core of entrepreneurology education. And what it means is that the student, the person in front of us, the me in them and the me in you, is the most important person in the learning process. Now, we know that traditional education doesn't work like that. We tend to find traditional education says, stay still, learn, get your grades, go on, make sure you pass, all that stuff. Whereas actually the student in my colleague's school in Kuala Lumpur, the child is the most important, and the teacher is not even called a teacher. They're called a coach. So as we develop people, we need to really listen to them and listen to ourselves. So this mantra, combining knowledge, experience, and imagination, is why entrepreneurology is an evolutionary education. And those of you who followed educationists like Sir Ken Robinson and others, we know that when we listen to people, we find out what they really, really are good at. But so many people don't think they are. Now, we need to use our imagination. Einstein says imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. This is why I think together we can shine a light, and we can be as crazy as Steve Jobs, who obviously, he said, the ones who are crazy enough to think they can change the world, the ones who do. I want you to be changing the world with me. So this university is not a campus university. Our campus is the world. It started in 1972, and the founder of it was my father-in-law. I will show you him in a minute. But think about the fact there are millions and millions and millions of small businesses everywhere in the world. And some people go on to build several shops, several empires. Some just stay one step at a time. But it's that energy in the world that we really need to tap into. And there are some obvious, very famous entrepreneurists like Steve Jobs, Richard Branson, Elon Musk. I didn't specifically just pick men, but these guys changed the world a lot. And so this young man did too. And I want to tell you this story because the younger generation are where it's at. This young man, Kevin Doe, he really is for real. He started when he was 13 making some kind of gadget that worked to reduce the intermittent electricity supply, etc. He got spotted on a TikTok video, and he's now 26 and he's backed by MIT, and he's going forward making these things. I don't know how he did it, but his purpose really resonates with me. Now, if Kevin Doe is one person, and there are millions and millions of these kids, these young people, then us as mature mentors, PhDs in entrepreneurology, can really fire up amazing, amazing energy in the world with this demographic. Now, the best way to predict the future is to create it. That's what I want to do. I want to create a world of authentic harmony and people running their own businesses and employing lots of people and making them happy and motivated and prosperous. And women-owned business are the fastest growing influence as entrepreneurs in the world. We're not always able to get the funding that we want. So another part of my mission is that together we can be a collective force to engage in funding and making sure that women do get funded. It's the way forward. This is just a selection of people that you probably know, most of these, and you can add others in. So my question is, will you add yourself in? Will you be part of the entrepreneurists of the world who are going to change the stories? Now, my favorite story is Richard Branson. It's not just because he's British, but I love the fact that he's just set up the University of Dyslexia, and I'm dyslexic. And he says, dyslexia is a real advantage to entrepreneurs, but he loves people, and all of his businesses are successful, I believe, through his love of people as well as his love of ideas. So obviously he's got a high level of ideas. He's not always technically savvy. He gets the right people around him, but he sees an opportunity, he says, right, these people want to go on a flight somewhere. Shall I go and get an aeroplane and start Virgin Airlines? That's what I think is an entrepreneurologist. So an entrepreneur or entrepreneurologist isn't someone who owns a business, it's someone who makes things happen. So my father-in-law was alive until 2014. I did meet him a couple of times. He was 93 when he passed away. But he started this discipline back in 71, 72. He was an entrepreneur before that from the age of 17. He just loved ideas. He liked thwarting the system and changing the rules. And that's why our PhD is an experiential PhD. It's not an academic PhD. It's accredited by the World Association of Visionaries and Entrepreneurists, which is its own body, and I need help with developing that, but it was set up in 1991. And the university was an institution in 72, but was changed to the name university in 2001. But these two are registered in Hawaii as non-for-profits, and I need help developing this whole business, which I have coming in spades from so many arenas. And lately, this idea of really mentoring the young generations, which I showed you. I just want to tap into a key issue that entrepreneurology is about is, and this was my father-in-law said, there are four levels of management. The first is what we do. Second is how we're doing it. Third is what are we doing? But the fourth is the entrepreneurology, is what should we be doing? And I want you to question that. In today's world, what should we be doing with our gifts? Can we share them with the world? Can we make a presence in the world that will really identify entrepreneurology PhD as something different? I'm just going to share something I found really, really resonated with me, that my father-in-law and my husband, they developed the creed. So just slowly think about this as I read them. An entrepreneurologist chooses to be uncommon. It's my right to be creative and innovative, not to be controlled by teachers. I want to seek and embrace opportunity rather than settle for security. So people say there's no opportunity out there. There's huge opportunity. I want to risk to dream. I want to act to build. And if it's my lot to fail, and we probably will fail many times in our success, I will rise again and again until I know the exhilaration of success. And it's not about ego. It's not about control. It's not about greed. I can and will overcome all obstacles on the road leading ultimately to success. I prefer the challenge of life to the routine of existence. And I love the anticipation of fulfillment to the predictability of conformity. Now, this is not going to be for everybody, but if these things resonate with you, then you're an entrepreneurologist. You want to embrace the life that you feel within you. You want to welcome challenge, change, not complacency. I want to manage my dignity despite all the challenges, and we have many, many today. And it's my heritage to stand unafraid. I do get afraid sometimes, but I want to stand unafraid because I want to make the world a better place for my kids and my grandkids, but also for all of these kids out there who have wonderful ideas. So it's my birthright to enjoy the rewards of honest effort and recognize the compassion to care and the wisdom to act appropriately for the benefit of the whole. And this is the thing I think that everybody on this call is about. We do need to be successful ourselves. We need to drive our own revenue streams, but we also know that there's a potential out there which is more than us. We live in a world of AI, of change, of technology. When the computer goes wrong, it totally blows us up. When Facebook hack us, as I know that's happened, that deliberately puts an obstacle, but we go over it, we get past it because possibilities are everywhere. And I also believe together we can really make a difference. These are what my father-in-law said are the unteachables. So I want you to just think about the entrepreneurologist doesn't only go and find out where to learn things, they recognize that they learn from themselves. Every one of these principles is what we explore in the PhD learning is with ourselves and with other generations, because everybody has a different view on how these things impact us. But these are all things that you can't teach people. You can provide the environment that they expand in, but these are the unteachables. So we're not throwing academia and traditional education out of the window, but we're saying there's a whole lot more which is about the energy of being a visionary and knowing when we fail, we can get up and do something again differently. So the entrepreneur always searches for change, responds to it, and exploits it as an opportunity. So I believe that each one of you, whatever business you're in, you're actually doing it because you want to resolve something that impacts your world. There's something that's come up. For me, it was always about, why do people hate each other? Why do people argue? Why do men and women seem to have an unhealthy disrespect for each other? And that's why I started working on my gender dynamics intelligence, because I had a passion to understand why I loved harmony and I didn't always find it, and I wanted to find it. So why are entrepreneurs visionaries and not traditional? For exactly that reason. We don't fix into the box. We seek to do things in a different way. And for me, I believe that entrepreneurialists shine a light for a better future. So you remember those three bubbles. I believe that when we get to this level, this credential, I imagine millions and millions of PhD entrepreneurists across the world, and we start getting corporate sponsorship, we start getting government intrigue. We know already that there are governments in Africa who've come to us to say, what do we do with our young people? How do we get them to be a viable workforce? And we're working on that proposition. That's where you come in. But we also know that we want to be able to share values of healthy existence with our communities, and all of you do that. So you remember this stream? This is really important that as PhDs and those last two bubbles, I'm inviting you to be a PhD with us so that you can also become advanced fellow professors, mature mentors for this demographic that we know is starting to come to us and saying, please help us, please help us. So there's an investment for you to become a PhD, of course, and I'll share with you that in a minute. But there's also a payback because we will be getting funding in for these future stars. We already have an inquiry from some nations in Africa who are willing to put money behind this project to make sure that our future stars are their future trade and business people. So the opportunity is coming in, and I really, really want you to take that on board. The PhD is for everybody and we have some who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Kevin Doe, at the age of 26, is an entrepreneurologist. But essentially, the Professional Higher Doctorate is your life success credential. And hopefully Dr. Patty is on the line. You can share what that means because she's already our PhD. And thank you for being here. It's about a career assessment profile, which is a set of questions which underpins the writing of your dissertation. But it's also gathering in all your accomplishments and presenting them to the world. So my vision is that we will have all these amazing, amazing stories and lessons on a dashboard where people can go and visit and explore and find out about you. It's like a Wikipedia or a Library of Congress. So already we have many of those, but I see thousands, millions. So as young kids and startups come in, they say, I want to go and find out what it's like to be an entrepreneurologist in the construction field, in the law field, in the personal development field, in the health field. And then they will come to you and you will be that specialist on that subject. Essential reading, there's not a lot of reading, but there are some. The original lecture notes, I have to tell you, are absolutely brilliant, given they were written in 1971. I don't read books very often, and I read this right through from every word. I couldn't stop reading it. My father-in-law was definitely a very visionary pioneer, and this was way before social media and computers. And also there's some deep dive assignments around understanding the value creation, the creed, and the principles. But the principles are designed as a living document, so all our graduates actually add into that value. And then sharing your expertise as adjunct faculty and becoming a mature mentor, a fellow of the RUE, and eventually a professor and a partner as we expand. So that's really and if a question in your head is, how long does it take? How long is a piece of string? It can take 6 months, 8 months, a year. Most people, it's about time. My current PhD, Floribert Molabunda, the only reason he hasn't finished is because he's got so busy being an entrepreneurologist. He's actually expanded into hyperspace in a project in Africa. And here is my wonderful friend, Dr. Patty Grover. She's holding her award. And this is where I'm going to tell you about your investment if you choose to come with us. It's $13,369. And if you wonder why it's that strange number, that 369 are Tesla's magic numbers. But this is about an investment in yourself. So you will earn money from PhD referrals. if you refer 10 PhDs in, your PhD is paid for. You can choose to be a facilitator in our mature mentor program for the future stars. And then that you'll become a fellow. And then you can apply to put your programs onto our dashboard. So when we start dealing with these future stars, which will be thousands of millions of young people, your products can be in there as part of that delivery. And obviously that will earn you money. And as you rise to be a fellow and a professional on the advisory council with the Commission for Higher Education in our accreditation body, then that will be a place of earning as well. So I'd like you to think about that in the bigger picture, and I'll come to the last slide and then let's have a conversation. I introduce you again to my husband, Dr. Jim Ohms, son of the founder, and he is a fabulous musician. For those of you who don't know, he played the piano at Dr. Amy's place yesterday, and as me, and all of these wonderful people already in the system. And that QR code is to our enrollment form. So if you'd like to take a shot of that, or I'll send it to you, we have a special enrollment form, which is different to the one on my website, because I want to just collect your ideas. There's no fee involved in the enrollment. Just want to get your ideas, see how you feel about the questions, and whether you feel that you are an entrepreneurologist or not. So let me stop the share and invite